Hang on. Got lots of stuff going on here. Where are we? All right. I think I got this squared away. Let's see.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, away we go. I think I just kicked a bunch of people out, so we'll have to wait for them to come back in. But it is Wednesday, July 23rd of 2025, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan, which I'm always excited to do, one of my favorite calls. And we find ourselves, let's see here. I want to make sure I'm showing this correctly. Can you tell me, are you seeing... Let's see, hang on. Hold on, this is acting wonky. Danielle or Ben, can you tell me if you are seeing the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan topics? Are you seeing that on the Zoom or not?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's all kind of all over the place here today. So let's just make sure we're showing that. Okay, so let's get started. We are in week 2 of the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. And as you know, this is a 12-step plan that gets you to the point where you've actually built a business. And I can tell you this, for those of you that persevere with this, and it looks like we're going to get a lot of people watching the recording versus being here live tonight, but I did kick some people out by accident. This business is pretty simple once you have a plan. It's about showing up with your own self-discipline week after week after week. And I do that. I execute this plan every single week with discipline. And there's no other way to put it. And for that reason and that reason only, the combination of a strategic plan that I know tactically what to do each week, am I successful, period. Because I am not subjected to the ups and downs of the real estate market. Like most real estate agents, I'm hearing about some top producers that are really sweating it, especially there's a bunch of groups out in San Diego that have just all been in a race for these internet buyer leads. And the minute that everything cooled off, they're struggling. And I warn people against these ups and downs in the real estate business that without a plan, you're going to feel them. But people like me that have strategic plans, I have just put together a deal with a past client. It's a buy sell, and I have almost double-ended a listing, and I have put another buyer under agreement all within a couple weeks. And the reason is because I'm following a plan, and all of those people have come through the plan. It's not something whimsical that came out of the blue. In fact, the past client I've been following up with for at least 7 years, if I recall correctly, by giving the market updates that we give. So again, if I didn't have this 12-step process of strategy, I wouldn't know tactically what to do. So it's important to understand that as I go through this, this is what I do, and this is how we train. So the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan that we talked about last week and went over the business model, I won't do that again today, but in the first week, I talked about how Michael Gerber had a massive impact on me via my mentor, who was somewhat affected by him, but I really studied him a little bit more diligently and realized that he was asking us to not just be entrepreneurs who wanted to have independent businesses and run right down to the tactics, but he was almost commanding us to consider strategic approach and planning, and that's the job of the manager. And I could see that that was the biggest hole. So when you look at this course, I want you to put on your manager's cap. Yes, an entrepreneur in an ideal situation runs a strategic business that's planned out before a tactic ever happens. A tactic means technically what you do in the business, showing a property, writing up an offer. There's a lot of tactics in this business, but why and how we do things should start with a strategic approach where you get up above the business units, understand it holistically. So in this case, in that first week, I explained the model. So now we get into, okay, I get it. It's a business. And we have to take that financial moment of questioning and ask ourselves, well, why are we doing this financially? I mean, right? From a personal standpoint, why are you doing this? Is a lot of people have always thought about real estate because it's out there. They think they can do it. It's intriguing. It's very alluring because it is the largest financial and emotional transaction people make in a lifetime. So there's an attraction to it. There's a magnetic attraction. But when I say, why are you doing this? From a financial standpoint, you have to realize, and I just had an interview in here tonight, right before this call, and the idea was, I said, listen, you're over at another brokerage, and I'm telling you right now, one of the biggest challenges with that brokerage, there's no plan. And you're just doing tactics. And that's why you're driving off of Cape Cod 45 minutes into an area you don't know. You're uncomfortable because randomly that brokerage that made you that promise is getting leads randomly. And every agent gets sucked into leads. I don't even talk about leads until week 7 in this course, because if you don't arrive correctly at leads, you don't really know what to do with them, even if I gave you a whole bunch of them, and you'd squander them and you wouldn't turn them into prospects, and then you wouldn't know how to follow up with those prospects. So if you don't slow down and have the strategic vision for how a business should work, you will make enormous amounts of tactical mistakes. Okay. So tonight we start with the financials, and you can see really how, as I say to people, please don't quit your day job when you join me. Don't quit your day job. I tell all of them, unless of course it's in the coaching program where they're already made this a full-time living. This is something where I really want people to understand, if they quit their day job, it's at their own peril, because you don't just turn on a switch and a business is profitable on a regular basis. It just doesn't work like that, especially in this business where you have to actually go out and get the inventory of sellers and maybe buyers, but sellers first. And that just doesn't come easily. And how would you do that anyway if you're new to the business without a plan? So, but the first thing we want to say is, okay, that's fine, but there has to be a big, North Star that you're chasing. There's always that goal that we're after, and that's money. I mean, we don't have to hide the white elephant in the basement or in the corner of the room. We just call it what it is. We're after money. And because it's a small business, the thing that we're after is a gross income level, right? What's that gross income for the business? That's something that we all, need to talk about. Okay. So now going from there, we're going to get into this week's stuff here. So let me just make sure we can share this tab here, and then let me see. I guess I am showing it, but they're not on the right one. I want to be here. Bear with me. It's just tricky to do StreamYard out to YouTube as well as Facebook. Zoom. So let's just see this here. Okay. So setting financial goals doesn't mean all of them, because let's not be naive. In a business, it's A minus B equals C, which means you should have an understanding of the basics of an income statement. But in its very basics, it's revenue minus expenses equals profit. That's it. That's all there is to it. A minus B equals C. Now, of course, that gets more complicated as time goes on, and you have a lot more expenses in different categories, and you have to categorize all those expenses. Revenue is relatively easy. You have seller income, you have buyer income, you might have some rental income, and maybe some other miscellaneous pieces, but that's relatively it. And under my tutelage, I'm driving you to focus on seller revenue. I want you to learn how to list and sell those properties as the primary focus of the strategy, because we talked about in the first week, how does the business really work? And the answer to that is it's based on listings that go into the MLS system. So that begs the question, well, who controls the listings? And I want that answer to be you, right? So, but what's that all look like monetarily? So before we start, now we're business consulting this week, and we're saying to ourselves, okay, in a business consultation standpoint, where do we start, right? So wow, this is showing all these answers already. It's not working correctly. So hang on one second. It's not supposed to show all those things, but it is what it is. We'll go into it. So let's talk about why we have goal setting, right? Because I spent a lot of time, and if you want to do the extra work, I spent a lot of time following Brian Tracy, right? So Brian Tracy, I guess maybe if it shows it, yeah, this way. So Brian Tracy is an old man now, but he was around for a very long time. as you might mistake him as a motivational teacher, but what he really was a strategist. And he wrote several books, and they repeat common themes. So one is Eat That Frog, an outstanding time management concept, very stupid simple. But he also wrote one that was called Goals. And so early on in my small business career, I was learning from people like this, reading these books, and I still to this day am affected by them, right? So if you really talk about the brain's activities, we're talking about goal setting activates the brain's reward system and motivates action. It's a very important concept that you understand that this is very biomechanical, the way that we behave. We was just talking to my son about this at dinner tonight. And I said to him, you really need to know that when I teach you to write a handwritten note, there's a reason why behind that. It's not just because it's a good idea. It's because it triggers the law of reciprocity, which is a law of psychology. So you're employing these major immutable laws. Well, it's similar to that when it comes to goal setting. So the idea is really that you're trying to activate a reward system by setting a goal. And that motivates action, because I always refer to this goal financially in our business, the gross commission goal that you want. And this is before splits and expenses, et cetera. This is the very tippy top of your income statement. So when you set that, you see it out there as a North Star and you want to travel to it. There's something that draws the human spirit towards a goal. And if there's not one, we we wander aimlessly. So we're trying to trigger this reward system to play a game inside this business. Now, the brain is wired to focus on specific and measurable goals, making it easier to prioritize and achieve them. So I talk a lot about another guy that's now since passed by the name of, it's scary to see how old I'm getting, because a lot of the people I looked up to that were live mentors, early on in my career are now passing or very, very old. But the other guy was Zig Ziglar. If you ever go on YouTube and you look for Zig Ziglar videos, a crazy motivational speaker. Say crazy to I saw him live at the old Boston Garden once upon a time, and man, what a speaker. But they come with, all these speakers come with a little bit of immutable universal wisdom. And one of those was, he dropped the line that I never forgot. Why be a wandering generality when you can be a meaningful specific? And I just never forgot that. And when I was doing that cross-pollination with the Brian Tracy stuff and learning how this stuff all works, the brain is actually looking for a very specific concept that it can measure to see if you're on target or not. And we get into this in the self-image in the next call, but I'll touch base on it briefly here. There's another book when it comes to the mindset and the self-image that relates to this specific line right here. And that's Maxwell Maltz's book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics, or Psycho-Cybernetics, Mind Steering Systems. And if you want to steer your mind in a direction, it better be after something very specific that you outline, because then it can tell you whether it's on or off course, meaning it can measure how you're going towards that goal. On or off, okay? Very critical, simple, stupid, but very critical idea. Always be a meaningful specific when you're talking to people, when you're goal setting, everything. Don't say things that are wandering. I'll give you one of my pet peeves in this business is when people walk around and they say, oh, it's a buyer's market. Oh, it's a seller's market. I've never heard of anything so stupid in my life, because I don't even know what that means. What are you going to do? Walk into a seller's house tonight to give, a presentation and admittedly say it's a buyer's market? Well, there are some favoritisms to the buyers right now, and that is the amount of inventory. But a seller right now in Boston or Cape Cod who has their house prepped properly and priced properly is still in the catbird seat. You can still get multiple offers, and that can happen in any type of market. So we have to be specific about why we're saying something to a seller / and a buyer. So all of this relates to the way that the brain is wired to think. So no matter whether it's setting your own financial goal for your business or you're talking to a seller or a buyer, specific and measurable goals matter. So setting goals creates a sense of purpose and direction, which reduces stress and anxiety and enhances overall well-being. Now, those are heavy words, right? Now, purpose is a heavy word. My purpose is to achieve this financial goal. Now, again, this is not necessarily your life purpose. I mean, maybe it is a big thing like it was to me. I wanted to not work for a corporation that already existed. I wanted to start one from scratch, and I wanted that business to solve problems for people who really needed help. That was a very big purpose. But once I had a very, specific financial goal as it related to that, so I could measure, hey, I need to help X number of people at X dollars for this to be financially successful, all the while I'm fulfilling this growth. Like I will, if I want to really fulfill my purpose of helping a lot of people, which is, by the way, my real personal purpose, to be a person for others, and I set a big financial goal, well, they're going to go hand in hand, because I'm going to have to start to get resourceful enough to make those two things happen. And it's really worked well for me since I started really taking this stuff to heart. So the brain responds positively to clear, achievable goals by releasing dopamine too, right? Which is a neurotransmitter that helps improve the mood, memory, and focus. So when I move towards a goal, for example, and I get a big deal under agreement, my brain knows very specifically and measurably, is that unit, that gross commission for that one side of that one deal, is that inside the model? So for me, loosely, it's a little bit more specific than this, but loosely, I know that I'm targeting $1 million sale at least at 2.5% on one side of a deal. So I know very clearly that $25,000 for me per commission is a red light. If I go below it, that means I need to do more to achieve the big financial goal. But if I really smash it and I'm well above it, for example, right now I've had a couple of deals at $930,000, just a little bit below that target. So I know that the 1.3 I put under agreement is above it and then some, but then I know the 650 sale on that is really going to yank me down to the low end of that. So I'm always thinking in terms of these clear and achievable goals. And when I hit above the $25,000, the dopamine goes flying. When it goes below, I might even argue that, yes, I'm happy it's happening, but I get a little cortisol stress moment too. So don't take the activities that you're achieving or not for granted in their ability to send the right or the wrong chemical through the body to really like put you in a lousy mood. And the worst mood you can be in is when you're not doing certain things strategically every week to control the outcome. Now you're really causing the cortisol and the stress to really creep in on you. So, but you can fight back in this business pretty quickly when you execute a plan. And quite frankly, there are other things like this next point makes by breaking down large goals, which would be the achievements of, say, let's say I'll round the number down for the moment, $523,000 gross for my personal book of business a year. Now I'm doing two marketplaces, and I hope to hit that in both at some point soon. I know that's a big goal, overwhelming to you. Take 53,000. I think that's probably one of the best, markers for a part-time business, because you can make triple the money you would make working at Starbucks or Whole Foods part-time. And I go through that example, and I could do it tonight for you. But see, all of this is a biochemical game. Right? There's a biological game inside the brain that if you can set these goals and they're clear, and you take even action steps, you don't even have to get the sale and close the deal, but just by moving through action steps that I teach you to take, you go, oh, I know that I'm making progress because I did the open house. I know that I got some people to opt in. I know that some of those people that opted in are interested in the next level. Right? So you start going through all of this stuff, and that's how you figure this out, right? So by breaking down large goals into smaller and more manageable steps, the brain is equipped to achieve them, right? It's better equipped to achieve them. So, and you'll see this tonight, because I'm going to show all of you that come live or watch the recording, I'm going to actually show you the tool I built tactically. Like, this is the strategical conversation. But then I said, well, how do I show an agent and my own brain what the basic steps financially are that I need to achieve? And I built a spreadsheet, and I built a model so I could see on a per unit basis or a per sale basis, what did that mean against the major goal? And I just gave you some examples, like 649. I know everybody would love a 649 sale, and so would I, and I'll take it. But it is well below the targeted range I need to be in, which means I probably have to do 2 of those 6s just to achieve one of my averages at $1 million. But I have a $1.95 million double-ended deal going at the same time. So I really can, pull it back up in that deal, right? So if I have one side at 649, one side at 1.3 on that deal, a double at currently 1.875, well, that my dopamine would explode for that. That's an orchestra. So albeit one of the four components is below, three are above and two are far above, right? So this is how I see this in manageable steps. And again, it just happens to be while I'm doing this call tonight, that kind of activity is on me right now, and I can speak to it. So I have these 4, to 5 sides that I can talk to, and I got a couple close behind that. So that dopamine is flowing. But if you talked to me about 3 weeks ago, I feel like, oh my gosh, I've done 6 open houses per weekend for 3 weeks in a row. And I feel like I'm talking to myself at every one. But a lot of that work came to bear fruit in the future. So the manageable steps were 1 open house at a time, 1 follow-up at a time, right? And so that's what it starts to sound like tactically after we do this. So all of those tactical what to do steps at open houses and things like that are all because I'm trying to achieve that one financial component of a big financial goal, okay? So visualizing the end result of a goal helps the brain to create a roadmap. That's a key word here for achieving it, and provides a sense of clarity and focus. So a lot of the time early on, I remember learning this concept that once you set the goal, and this is a Brian Tracy concept that I learned from him, that once you set that goal out there, you didn't really need to know how you were going to do it. And that sounds crazy because people spend so much time over analyzing and planning versus saying, hey, I'd just like to gross for my business 53,000, 153,000, 523,000, whatever. Now, I do recommend you do that reasonably, but the spreadsheet that I'll show you tonight is going to show you how to stay reasonable. And the MLS stats are going to show you how to stay reasonable. So you can make a reasonable estimation for a plan that you can actually be clear about, focus on, and manage. You can't just make something up that's astronomical without any way to do that. I remember, quick anecdote, I remember coaching at a former company when back in the heyday when people used to go to seminars like crazy, 2,000 people in a building for a weekend. And I remember I would come out after being on stage or talking to people, and somebody would come up and want to talk to me. I said, well, what's your financial goal? I want to make $1 million. Make. First of all, you know immediately somebody doesn't know what they're talking about when they say I want to make. Because if you want to gross, you want to net, what do you want to do? So most people don't know. So they and I'm not a guy to curb anybody's enthusiasm. I love somebody who wants to gross $1 million and then net $1 million. That's great. And I'll show you how I think you can do that. But having said that, when you delude yourself and then you say to the guy, well, how many have you sold so far? I just got my license. Okay. Well, it's enough of a delusion to ruin your ability to start and just go get one sale and feel the dopamine flow and see what it's like to help a real person and get paid to do so, right? So I think you have to be realistic in this. But the goal setting requires the use of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision making and planning. And that's what we're doing here tonight. When we go through a strategic planning call, we're planning. We're trying to come up with a plan for you that you can execute. So which, when you're training this prefrontal cortex in a planned way, you can improve your cognitive function and enhance overall productivity. I can tell you this is absolutely right and absolutely true, because in my own personal experience, I used to call it work on it Wednesdays. Here we are Wednesday. Every Wednesday for a very long time, many years, I would get in my car in Cape Cod. It's about an hour and 10, 15 minutes to downtown Boston. I would park my car in the Boston Common garage, which is under the Boston Common parking garage. And I would walk over first to Starbucks because the office share wasn't open for the first hour or so. And then I would walk over there about 8 o'clock. And all day long, I was just working on building my systems for follow-up. Really, that was the main reason I was doing that. And I just started training my brain to be in that planning mode all the time. And I just spent today, I was downstairs at the coffee shop downstairs, my tenant, and I was sitting there really working on a couple of things, planning out a better a newsletter, a printable newsletter and really thinking about it, from a strategy standpoint and coordinating that. So I'm always working on that planning to facilitate and make easier all of the actual tactical work I'll do. So my brain is now trained very much to work on my business. That's Michael Gerber's book talks very much about that. Instead of just working in it all the time, meaning running an open house, calling back that buyer, sending some information. That's all very tactical work. I work on it. So, okay, what is an open house supposed to look like? When they come through the front door, what should we be saying tactically? Because it's a strategy to get everybody forced to opt in. What should we offer them after we ask them to sign in? Is it just the MLS sheet? Nope, it should be a brochure. Okay, once they say that, then we'll be quiet. Let's let them sign in. Everything just becomes so precise when you're planning it because you're seeing things in slow motion from above. I always use the analogy that I loved Napoleon Hill's book, Law of Success, when I realized that when he was studying success, he was studying a lot of successful industrials at the turn of the century in the early 1900s, especially Henry Ford. And that was the one I locked on to. I'm like, oh, that's it. It's the assembly line, right? And watching one of our contacts go down that assembly line. So to work on a business like that, I imagine myself like Henry Ford in the early days. And if you see this physically in old movies too, where somebody will walk up a set of stairs to an office that's above an assembly line and they can watch it. They can see what's going on. So the management or the planning and the accounting were all above this whole entire business. Whereas if you walk down the steps and went to the assembly line, you're sort of blinders on and laser focused. So to train the brain to be in this decision-making and planning place, right? By having a goal, you have to get up off that assembly line and plan because you've got this strategic goal that's like calling you and saying, dude, you're not going to do $1 million gross for this business if you don't get off this assembly line. I mean, again, tonight, talking to this agent, Rose, that came in for an interview, she's at Real Brokerage and all they've promised her is AI and, buyer. She's driving 45 minutes off Cape to go to a buyer, lead that may or may not be even active, right? Ridiculous strategy. And so all of a sudden she's burnt out. She can't get over the bridge in the summertime with all the traffic. So it's amazing that she just never sat still and thought about a strategy. But then she goes tactically and gets burnt out within 6 months and realizes this isn't a good plan. So it's very, very important for us to understand that if you have a goal and you do something tactically that's not working, the next step is not to just go to another brokerage and hope they have different tactics. It's to say, what's wrong with the plan? And that's exactly what I just taught her 2 hours ago here. So reviewing progress towards goals helps keep the brain engaged and motivates towards achieving them. Now, I think this is really where most people quit. Okay. This is a very, very important point in this is that what is progress? Well, I haven't closed any deals yet. Well, okay. Well, hold on. You're going from zero to close. Well, there's a whole bunch of things that happen on the assembly line or have to happen on the assembly line to even get to a closing and get a check. So let's go all the way back. What happened with your acquisition of listings? Well, I don't really do it because I get internet buyer leads. Okay, stop. Let's get up in the strategic room. How does the business work we talked about in week 1? It's predicated on listings. And listings fill up the MLS, and that's how those MLS listings get shared out with the internet that attract buyers. So the primary source of business is a listing, not a buyer. We're not putting buyers into the MLS, we're putting listings. So if you want to be successful in this business, doesn't it make logical sense that you should acquire some listings? Yes, it does. Okay, good. What have you done to acquire listings? Well, I'm in a BNI meeting, and every time we talk, there are a lot of people that own homes. Wonderful. That's progress. That's not nothing. Now, if there's nothing, you might just not know what to do because you have zero plan. So later on in this course, when we get to leads, you find out that there are leads hiding in plain sight, expireds, FSBOs, etc. You just don't have any idea what to say, so you don't make progress towards them. You take what's easy or you think is easy, and that's an internet buyer lead, which is probably a whimsical inquiry 99% of the time, and it's lower end. Not good. So even when you're making progress like that, it's not going to motivate you to think you can achieve this goal because it's just going lower and lower and more difficult, and it gets very discouraging. It's why most new agents quit. So celebrating these small wins along the way help to reinforce positive behavior, leading to a more significant sense of achievement and satisfaction. Again, I know this sounds very generic when you're talking about the brain and how it works, but if I don't talk about this, then I set the goal. You don't really know why or how all this works, or nobody pattern interrupted you to say, you better think about this, because I did, right? And I am telling you, to be successful in this business versus the competition is easy. I'm going to make a bold statement tonight. It's easy. I have never seen so many lazy, distracted, ADD'd out people as I have in this modern era. Stunning to me. I teach my own kids, if they can just stay calm, self-disciplined, hardworking, and I mean hardworking, not 9 to 5, hardworking, they're going to be strategic on top of that. They're going to continuously just outwork people in a strategic way. It's an unfair fight. And so I am telling you that celebrating a small win is actually how you build a small business. You don't just go from zero to successful. Well, I quit my day job. Well, who told you to quit your day job? That's dumb. Well, the brokerage down the street, and they said, if I don't go all in on what? What plan? And was that plan strategically thought about in the context of acquiring listings that would then grow your business? No, right? So you can see the chaos because nobody sits down and does a course like this. So goal setting can lead to the development of new habits and skills, which can lead to long-term personal and professional growth, right? So the habits and skills, I'm going to tell you a habit. I am habitually addicted to open houses on the weekends. Now, I can stop anytime, and I am going to be away for a couple of weekends in August, taking one of my kids down to New York, picking one up, and then shortly thereafter, a couple of weeks, taking one back to school there. So I know I'm going to take some time off. I'm also flying to Omaha for an elderly couple in their 90s, having a wedding anniversary that are family friends. We're going to fly down there and have that fun. So I will stop. So I'm not addicted to the extent that I don't live my life when I want to. But I am telling you, habitually, I will get in my car at 8 o'clock in the morning, and whatever day we flip-flop, I will drive all the way out on the Cape, about 47 minutes to start there, or I'm flip-flop this time. I'll start at 10 in the morning. I'll go 10 to 11. I'll take a break 11 to 11:30 to get to the next one. So an hour, half hour travel, an hour, hour and a half travel, and 2 hours. It's a habit. And I know that at one of those, all of those, some of those, I'm going to get some result, even if it's nothing. The result is I made a small win by doing an open house on behalf of the seller who gave me that opportunity. Now, strategically, open houses are by far and away the best way to prove to a seller you're actually executing your plan proactively, not waiting for co-brokes to show it. And secondly, there is no better buyer lead capture than being in a house with buyers who walk through the door and don't have an agent, which happens all the time. So I get two of the best tactical things that I can do physically because the strategy knows that those are the two best funnels, period. Now, how I do it with the sign-in sheets and the simplification and the brochures and all that, but the fact that it's a habit and a refined skill, like I realized, like, for example, being in the open house, when I would ask them to sign in because the seller had asked them to do so, and that I would also appreciate them doing it. When they were done with that, they could take a brochure and there was an MLS sheet inside with all the details. Habit to repeat it over and over. But the skill set was, I'm talking to them while they're writing their name down and they're looking up at me and they're stopping short of giving me all the information. So now the skill set is improved to stand in an awkward silence, even if there's a spouse, a partner standing there too. We're all in awkward silence until the job of lead capture is done. Then boom, I go in. Well, that's a refinement of a skill set. And the reason that I can see what's happening at a skill level, I do so many habitually because I know it's successful that I'm refining. See how this works? I'm just telling you, this is exactly what I do. I can give you an example every week of how this works. Okay, so now let's get to the math. So This is where people really get screwed up and they really just make this just so difficult. So I'm going to do this again like I always do, okay? So the point being is that when you look at this gross commission goal, I would like to earn commissions of. This is a business, okay? This is a top line of an income statement. But here's the way that I would say we do this, right? And I'm going to do it on my phone calculator here, right? So I say to people, don't be delusional. You're not going to quit something and do this full time without some sort of a financial backup plan. Maybe you're independently wealthy and you can afford to buy, 18 to 24 months to get momentum and you can pay your bills. But I would never tell someone quit your day job. But then they would say, well, how am I going to do it? Well, because we have a plan and you can execute it part-time. But let's first of all make sure it's worth your while and you understand why it's worth your time to try to do this versus a part-time job. So what I always say to people is, let's imagine you work 40 hours a week and you need extra money, want extra money, whatever it is. So you figure you've got another 15 hours worth of work in you after the 9 to 5, okay? And you say, okay, I've got 15 hours. And some of the most obvious places anybody can get hired is retail. I remember when my father-in-law was struggling, trying to help his brother who was struggling to start businesses, do this. I said, Lee, why don't we just tell Brick to go and get a job in retail? Let's find out what he likes. So I remember talking to Brick, my wife's uncle, about retail. And I said, well, what do you like to do? And he's like, books. And I'm like, why don't you go work at Barnes & Noble? And voila, he goes to Barnes & Noble, gets a full-time job, benefits and everything. He went on to work there for years and then retired as a Barnes & Noble employee, right? With a retirement. So retail becomes the place to look to compare to. Do you want to do this or do you want to run a part-time business? Now, some people just aren't cut out to run a part-time business. I'll tell you right now, they shouldn't really be in this business. But if I said, I'm going to send you to Whole Foods, Barnes & Noble, or Starbucks, let's assume at the higher end, you could make 25 bucks. I'm going to stretch it. 25 bucks an hour. I don't even think they pay that much, any of them, but let's take it. 25 bucks an hour times 15 hours. Because let's say they say, hey, you're going to work that many hours minimum, or we're not going to let you work here. So that's $375 a week that you work. Okay. So 25 times 15 is 375. Now I come in there and say 375 a week, and you can't work every week of the year. I'm going to let you work 10 months, 2 months off. Okay. You're going to tell Starbucks, I go away for the whole summer, whatever it is, or I can't work during the summer. My kids are at home, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to take 44 weeks at 375. Okay. And I'm going to get 16.5. So you got $16,500 in extra money that you can make above and beyond what you make at 25 bucks an hour at a retail joint. Now, there's a lot of things you could do, but that's probably reasonable, right? If one of you that's on this call wants to look up what the hourly wage is at Starbucks, Whole Foods, or Barnes & Noble, for example, you could get me a real number, but we're 16.5. Now we come in here and oops, did not want to do that. We're looking at, I'd like to earn for the top line of the business, because this is not your gross pre-tax. So that was 16.5 pre-tax. We're looking for a pre-tax number, but in a business, we start differently because we got to get to the equivalent of 16.5, right? So we'll even do splits here tonight. But if I take that, and a lot of you would say crazy numbers, I'm just going to say, let's pretend that I need to make $35,000, okay? Gross at the top line, gross before splits. I need to make that, okay? Now, here's what's crazy. On Cape Cod, and I won't go to my blog, but suffice to say, the median price, which is what I teach bare minimum you try to stay around, is $766,000. Now, of course, if I would coaching in Kentucky or whatever, I could go less, but let's presume I've got $766,000 median. Okay. And I'm going to assume for the sake of this, argument, I could make 2.5% on the 766, right? So I take 766, hang on one second, 766, 1, 2, 3, oops. Got to square this away correctly, Danny. times 0.025. I'm going to get 19,150. Okay. 19,150. So on the formula up on the board here, let me just make sure I'm showing this on StreamYard. I am. Okay. So I've got 19,150 for one median sale on Cape Cod at 2.5%. 19,150. So gross, I'm already above 44 weeks. 44 weeks of working 15 hours a week. No easy task. Let's say that's 3 hours. You leave work and you go put 3 hours in 5 days a week. It's a lot of time to make 16.5. So I got 19,150 on one deal staring me in the face, right? So again, we've got 766 that would go in the second line here. I want an average commission rate of 2.5%. So I'm going to earn an average of 19,150. Okay. So now I have $35,000. I take one and I divide it by the average commission. So I take 35,000. You're getting the math, I know, because you're going to see it's less than 2, right? Divided by 19,150 is 1.82 transactions. You have to do 1.82, also known as rounded up to 2 transactions at the median number, okay, in the entire year. Now, of course, you know where I stand. I'm going to implore you to focus on the sellers, because the sellers, if you got one good listing, now think about what I'm saying. Let's say you commit 44 weeks to executing a plan that I teach you tactically. This is the strategy. This is why we should think about these certain things and how the business works. But then we get some tactics, okay? And I'll cheat a little bit tonight and I'll share some tactics. But I need 2 transactions, 2 at the median number and a reasonable commission to get there. If I get one listing and I work the heck out of it to get one buyer, so I do 1 and 1, that's all I have to do in an entire year to gross $35,000. Incredible. Now, that is before commissions, right? So if I do $35,000, let's say at the end of the day, by the time a Griffin agent does a deal before the sliding scale, if they do really well, it's about 67% takeaway, right? So times 0.67% is going to be 23,450 minus 16,500 is 6,950 above the Starbucks job. Crazy, right? You tracking me? So even 35 gross after splits with a traditional company that teaches you, trains you, and gives you a strategy, you're still far above. Let's see what this percentage is. 695 divided by 16.5. You are 42% more revenue in your single business that did a couple transactions in a year. Stunning. It's just stunning. So now go back to everything I talked about, breaking stuff into smaller pieces, manageable, clear focus. Everybody wants to put $100,000. You wouldn't even know how to make $100,000, but you definitely know how to make $35,000 in 44 weeks. Under my watch, shame on you if you didn't. Shame on you. You would have to not show up to any trainings. You would have to not execute on an open house. You would have to not talk to expireds and FSBOs ever. You really have to hide under the desk, right? And forget about your own sphere of influence where you're just listening to people talk about real estate. And through this course, you learn how to make an offer, which we get into in the next couple of weeks. Talk about you next week and then really getting into the offer. But it's stunningly simple to understand how easy it is to achieve the financial goal for your business. Now, of course, I could cut this in half and I could just say, okay, there's no way you're going to sell $750,000 homes. Take it in half, 375. What if you live in a land of 375s? There's very little of that around where I live. But let's say you have to do that. Okay, so now you do 4 transactions, 1 a quarter, 1 every 3 months. Okay. So again, if you're guessing or you have a terrible strategy, well, then your tactics are going to stink and it might be very difficult and you get discouraged. The dopamine is gone. The cortisol is rolling through your body. You're stressed. You quit. What do? You go back to doing what you're doing, plus you're working 15 hours extra at Starbucks, wherever, and you're committing a lot of time. So your time management for your life gets squeezed. It's nowhere near as good as running a small business, but you don't know any better. So there you are, right? Okay, that is it for this particular one. So $15 an hour starting at Starbucks, according to the internet, Deirdre, right? Crazy, right? $15. And I made a model on 25. How ugly is it at $15 versus a business like this, right?
Yeah. No, there's no doubt.
Right? It's crazy. But if
I think it just, it takes a little while to get out of the gate and get going, and
no doubt.
Love your model, and yes.
Yeah. Well, I watched you live the other day in there. So I'll give you some coaching, right? So one of the things is to really really get your sea legs under you in an open house and learn a little bit better how to articulate the value. You are a natural salesperson and a good one. Like I've watched you. You're very good with people. What I would do is make it smaller and make sure that the offers, we have a buyer package. That doesn't even mean anything to them, right? Say to them, listen, to make your search a little bit easier, I took the time, because you're taking the bow, I took the time to organize a package of information for buyers like you, and then open it and explain each item by what they really want. Say, there are pictures and details of properties that sold in this price range, so you as a buyer can see what the money's buying, right? That's number one. Number two, there's a market update in here that can show you the exact direction of current market pricing, like things like the see here, and you pull it out. It's really a slower, dramatic, and it's dramatized, Deirdre. It's not the speed with which we connect and build rapport. It's the pace with which we present dramatically the value of something. So we artificially slow ourselves down to do it, right? That's how it works. You're actually, you just artificial, because you're like me. You're high energy.
What's in the package? They love it.
They love it, right? Because it's a shocker to them, right? Isn't it? It's a shocker. Who would do this?
Happy to get it.
Correct. Now the key for you is, because you can make it rain like that, get those names on the spreadsheet, and then once a month, because we're going to, in another week, we've got another reset for updated information to make sure that they're getting mailed and emailed. Because the thing about email, if you have a kick-ass open rate, it's only 50% plus or minus.
Right.
That means 50%. Yes. And I get that on my email newsletter delivery. I get that because my list is so refined. But what's scary to me is that means 47% or so of my past clients didn't see anything from me in the email. So that's why we supplement things with physical. That's why our whole system is predicated on the physical package of information giveaway in the house and then continuously going forward, right?
Do you use text? I feel like I don't have a lot, but like what I've gleaned from the open house or some of the expireds that I've called. Yeah. They want me to text them.
But for what reason? Only to see that they're getting information.
Mostly it's like, even if I want, like, they want a market update, or updates about, like, I don't know, just going back and forth about when they can meet, all of that.
Well, that's, hold on. Let's unpack them. Nobody gets just digital of information. And remember, it's in the package. You got pictures and details of properties that sold and are for sale for the buyer. You've got the digital market update, and you've got the seller or buyer plan. Everybody physically gets that package in the beginning, or don't even consider it a prospect, right? It's a nothing in my world. That's the discipline I keep myself on. If you haven't accepted a physical package from me, you don't see me as any different. Going forward, I don't mind digitally sending you from MLS what sells around you if you're a seller. I don't mind digitally sending you the market update. However, I don't care what you say. In your mailing address, you're going to get monthly or bi-monthly a printed version of what I just talked about. Because what changes in that package is not the 7 steps or the 6 steps. What changes are the pictures and details of things that sold and the market update. I'll try digitally, but there's no assurance you get it. So I'm going to make sure you get it physically in the mail so that either way, I'm sure when I call you and say, did you get the info? You probably got the info one of those ways, if not both of them, because
You're saying that the people that you give the buyer packet to, or the seller packet at the open house, you're sending them monthly updates about it?
100%, 100%.
Right.
Oh, you have to learn. Yeah, you have to learn the system a little bit better. Let's go into
Yeah.
it. Yeah, let's go into it. We'll take a hard right turn into tactics here, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I told you guys for coming here live, you can coach on whatever. Okay, but I'm going to go into something. Bear with me. I have to find the follow-up scripts. It's really important to show this. Okay, and the cover letters. I think I've closed everything, so bear with me while I find it.
Yeah, and oddly enough, like strangely, like the last 4, I don't know if I call them prospects, leads, whatever, that I have either gotten from your open houses and or expired calls, have MLS access. So they don't really want any of the MLS. It's just odd.
Well, it's not odd. They think they have all of it because they're getting a feed from somebody. MLS access.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Well, let me just explain.
No, one of them was like an appraiser. Two of them have their real estate licenses. I don't think they practice.
Yeah. How would they have it? Well, first of all, MLS is shared to the public. I mean, you're seeing MLS listings on everybody's website. Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It all comes from the source. It's the service you have to understand. And this is why if we don't give them solds all printed and organized and begin to educate them, you're just competing to deliver MLS info. So there's nothing unique about that, right?
Totally.
So you have to show them what's unique is that, no, I take the time to be insightful about this because you told me you wanted Centerville. You don't start with 4 sales because you don't even know it's going to expire. You don't even know it's going to cancel. Like you don't even know.
Right.
So don't act like you know the 6 months worth of inventory in Boston, 5 on the Cape, and a lot of those are going to expire upside down. So you don't know. So let's get you some solds. Let's take a look at those. You can see what the money's buying, right? So
no, they love those.
They love that. Right. Because, well, that's insightful. That's insider information per se. But even if they can get it because they can, you're organizing it based on what is interesting to them. So that's why I'm saying, hey, I can set you up on MLS. This is after the original package. You love these? Cool. Let me look at the MLS, the sign-in sheet. Can I read your email? Because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to MLS. I'm going to set up an auto search so that every time something sells in the area that you want to buy, you have it in your email. So you stay up to date. I gave you what happened in the past several months, but you can be right on the front seat and I can organize that for you. So you have to enthusiastically sell that to them. Oh, I have access to MLS. What does that even mean? Everybody has access. You don't have organized information being organized by somebody like me to educate you, right?
Right.
And then in addition, you don't have anybody making a market update. That's unique to us. Nobody does that, right? And lastly, because it might get lost in spam and you don't see it, once every 30 days, I will print everything that happened in that 30 days and I will mail it to you. And then I will call you to say, did you get all this stuff?
If you have their address. Yes.
Well, you get their address if you're prospecting them correctly, which is exactly why my advice to you was slow down.
Yeah.
You got to slow down and you have to remember what you are actually doing with these people, right?
Yeah.
Slow it all down. Because if you're going too fast, you start to sound, it's crazy, it's scary. You drift right into what everybody else sounds like.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a default mechanism, because you're thinking, I like this guy and I can get this guy and I can do this for you. No, it sounds like a barking dog, right? Versus.
Well, and when you're new, you're just like.
It's instinct. That's
right. I know
right.
I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
So I want to be patient and I want to learn the right way to do it.
Well, you're retraining yourself, right? To slow down in the but the cool thing is, this is why I'm saying it. And you know it to be true because you've already gotten a bite at the apple to have people say, oh, I love this stuff. Good. Mm-hmm. Slow down and over dramatize it and make sure you set your follow-up on, right? So look, here's what this looks like. Okay. I'm going to show you this. Let me just make sure you can
just to come in and just spend,
you can. Yep. Get Laura and just block me out. But in the meantime, let's just put a bite on it right now. You see, no matter how we meet a buyer or seller, the system calls for prospect follow-up, right? So
Right.
if I come up here, let's just stay with the seller follow-up. You notice how I just come down here and immediately I have seller short-term follow-up. After I gave them the package, I called them, mailed it. I have that follow-up. Okay. Did you get it? Right. And then this is the one I'm really talking about. When you put the names that you prospected with discipline onto your prospect manager, the contact pipeline manager, you see them. So in another 7 days, you say, I've been killing myself at these open houses and some door knocks, and I have some people that haven't done anything yet, and that I'm in contact with, and it's August 2nd, and Danny just sent me the market update. So I have the piece that I'm waiting for. Now I just turn and say, okay, I need the cover letter for long-term follow-up. So I just go to, what is it? Is it a seller or buyer? Okay. So boom, there's the seller cover letter. And what does it say is in there? Pictures and details of properties that most recently sold. One-page statistical market. And then, of course, there's me, Deirdre. I'll come over and give you the consultation, tell you what to do, what not to do. So that cover goes on with those two pieces right there. You don't need
like tweak to the other letters we have, right? Like the open house.
exactly. Well, it's the
I
long.
don't think I have that one though.
Okay. Well, they're all on the Teachable site, but if not,
I don't
just see me. Okay. But now if I come over to the script, the script speaks to the cover letter the same way. So if I come here and you're following up, hey, Deirdre, Danny Griffin from Griffin Realty Group, I'm calling you because I want to make sure you're seeing and receiving the latest pictures and details of properties that sold in your price range, which are being sent via the multiple listing system automatically. And I'm also sending you the latest market update to show you the exact direction via email. Those two things are coming in email, but I did send them in the mail as well. Did you get all that? See, it just sets it up to just be giving. But if you're taking, hey, when you want to go see things, that's the default, what the brain does, and it will kill you. And all it will do is stretch out how long it takes you to build your business, right?
I think it's just, I mean, it's quirky, but I think my prospects, like I'll call them, they don't answer the phone, but they'll text me back.
It's not quirky. It's what they all do. You know why? Because what's important to us in that moment is not important to them. They're just not ready yet. Right. So when you keep sending the info, all of a sudden, this is what happened to me in Boston. Okay. So I got an email. Let me see if I can even find it. Hang on. I'll show it to you. I want to show you the result of.
Was that the one you talked about tonight?
Hang on. I referenced one of them in there. So let me see. Karen Beadle. Let's look at how many. Okay, here you go. Tell me when you can see this email.
All right.
Yeah? Can you see it?
Not yet.
You can't? Anybody else see this?
I don't know if anyone else can.
Anybody else see my screen?
No, not yet.
You can't?
I
Okay.
see children, beautiful children of Danielle.
It's not good. All right, hang on. Okay, here it is. Okay, now?
Yes.
Okay, look at this. We met quite a while back at your open house at Dern. My gosh, how many times do I have to say this, right? How many times do I have to say it? We're planning to come to Boston this weekend and we'll look at some open houses. I want to ask you both about condos at Back Bay, Beacon House, South End. We're looking for something small, 2 bedrooms. Thought we'd even consider studio.
Read email, right?
Yep, that would be a part of our collection of properties. We'd spend some time there. The big question is, do condos in Boston typically allow medium-term rentals as in 1 month? Would really ideally. We're looking from 6 to 1.4, though we have some higher blah. Any insight would be helpful. Okay? So now the whole idea is, why did this happen? And why is she copying Kathy? Because I had given this to Kathy, right? You see this original email all the way back in July 1. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much for stopping by my open house with your family. I'm CCing Kathy to arrange the package of information, which includes properties, boom, 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 right? See what I'm saying? Just follow it up. In addition, we include the latest one-page market update. And as a bonus, our buyer plan. We look forward to being in touch. So you see, I do what I say I'm doing. Now this just turned into $930,000 of a sale. Like
Nice.
it's hiding in plain sight, but you have to be precise at understanding the offer and the longer term follow-up. See, the follow-up that took some place. Yeah. Yeah. So again,
I love that.
yeah.
I feel like no problem with that because I think like you articulate this. I mean, I want to serve people. I feel like that is calling. So I love that.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, no, but
Okay.
you have it in your heart. Now, tactically, the coaching is slow down. Like
Yeah.
you're so moving fast. You didn't even turn all the lights on in the house, right? Like it's interesting when you watch agents, you're
Yeah.
so geared up to win and like you're a killer. You didn't even turn half the lights on in the house. It was pretty funny. I was laughing. I didn't want to say anything while you were doing it because I
Well,
know
I saw you running around switching the lights.
turning the
on.
lights on. Well, which means get there earlier, take a breath, turn everything
I
on.
had plenty of time too. I just
Yeah.
felt like it was very bright, but I was probably wrong.
Every single light goes on in the house when you're doing an open house, everything. And if you have a chance for music that's very soft or whatever in the background, you're setting the ambience for sale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
This is what I'm saying. We're just going too fast. But if we talk about it, of course, it makes total sense because it's common sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're close. I mean, the fact that you and a whole bunch of the new Griffin agents are out there doing them, I'm ecstatic because it gives coachable moments like that. And I watched it. It's just slow down when you speak because you speak like me. We speak fast, right? But I've learned when you hear me speak, you'll recognize my discipline. I'm speaking inside the system, right? If I have a chance to add color, I've already made it very clear what the offer is, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you're going to be more successful because you're good with people. You're very good.
Yeah.
People like you. You're very engaging, right? But if we talk at them like I did early in my career, instead of giving and magnetizing them in,
Right.
we're just not where we need to be, and we lose them. We lose them because they say, you know, I really like that gal, but I went into this next house and they had this information for me, so I just went with them. I liked it. You have to give them a reason to see you
Yeah.
as unique, which we get into in this course, right?
And I
Awesome.
will learn. I will.
You are learning. The fact that you're doing them is awesome.
Yes.
Gives a coachable
All
moment.
right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, cool. All right. I'm over. Anything I can answer real quick for the rest of you? I'm over time, and I like to do that to you. Okay. Hearing none. Thank you for being live. I'll see you guys later. Okay. Keep up the good work.